Good afternoon, everybody. And today I am so excited because I have one of my most favorite people. She is not only one of the most amazing doctors I've ever met, I get to call her friend. I have Dr. Kori Feldman on with me today. Hi, Kori.
Hi, Danielle.
How are you? You look so beautiful in red today.
I'm excellent. Thank you.
Good. So I'm so excited for this conversation with you because I feel like I've known you throughout this whole journey. And I've seen you transform into this amazing, just doctor and practitioner, but also coach. And I've seen you even transform like your wardrobe. So, I've seen you like start over here and now you're like this just amazingly confident, female who's out there changing people's lives. And so I'm really excited for people to hear your story today.
I'm excited to be here.
Good. Okay. So let's just go ahead and dive right in, right? You joined FPC about how many years ago?
A little over 7 years ago.
7 years ago. Okay. So it's been a journey, right?
A wild ride.
A wild ride. That's right. Go ahead and help me like paint the picture of what your life looked like and what the practice looked like before you met FPC. Where were you at in the whole private practice model?
Yeah, so I'd always been kind of interested in integrative or functional medicine, but went the straight MD route, got my degree, ended up doing family medicine residency, and a little over a year after finishing, that's when I started my practice with this integrative approach in insurance though. Fee for service insurance model, built it up for about 6 years before I met FPC, doing really well financially, had a couple of mid-levels working with me, a PA and a nurse practitioner. 3 of us were all seeing patients like wall to wall all day and killing myself time-wise and literally had no time freedom. Like that was the life. And I'm a crazier person because I was doing my own billing of insurance. So I would spend like 6 to 10 hours a week on top of seeing patients and closing notes for me and my providers. It was insane. So I would easily work 60 to 70 hours a week and definitely owned a job and not a business for sure.
We definitely talk about that a lot, owning a job or a business. And I love that you bring that up. There is a really great lesson if you want to learn. Charlie talks a lot about if you own a job or a business. So we'll put that link in the comments. But so you were really busy, right? And I hear that so much. I hear so many doctors tell me, Danielle, I'd love to do this, but I'm so busy. And there's a really another valuable lesson. We take you from being busy to being productive, right? And it's all about that block scheduling.
Yes.
So, you find out about FPC. Does it immediately resonate with you, or is there some hesitancy around working with a coach?
Yeah, I never even thought about coaching before I met FPC. It was never on my radar. And a little over a year after I opened my practice, I had lost my sister suddenly and unexpectedly. And so that was sort of, brewing in the background of like, oh my gosh, like, what am I doing and what's important to me? And like, how do I want to be more effective? Do I want to just kill myself into my 60s or 70s, just like doing this rat race? Or do I want to be more impactful and like do something in honor of my sister and just, more impactful to society and helping more people really live the way that I know they can if they have the right support and structure. And so this was kind of bubbling around in my head for a couple of years. And then I met FPC at a medical conference it was back in September of 2014. And I remember there was a lunch that FPC was sponsoring, and the guy, basically started his 5-minute spiel with like, "Are you anyone looking for time freedom?" And I was like, "I'm listening. Please go on. I'm seriously listening to you." Okay. So he totally hit me like right where I was. And I'm like, yeah, like I don't have any time to enjoy, even going to conferences was a struggle, just to get the time off and stuff. And then I learned, I went to the table, I learned all about it. Didn't really understand if I was a good, a practitioner for what was going on at that time. And, I thought I was doing well. I'm like, do I need coaching? And they were like, oh, you'll do even better. And this will be great. And I was like, the whole thing resonated for me and just made so much sense. And so, my husband, who is a computer guy, not a doctor, he's my logical, throw things against, the sounding board of him to see is this a good idea? He learned about it. I sent him, that webinar I had, and he totally thought it was a good idea and was like, wow, I think you need this. And I was like, yes, this is so exciting. And so, yeah, we were like, okay, this sounds like what you need, what I need. But, it was near the end of the year. And as many medical doctors know, in the insurance model, like it can be a crazy time for people trying to get in before, the end of the year with their insurance and all that. So we actually did our discovery day in January of 15. And every part of it made so much sense. It resonated the whole time. I was like, oh my gosh, like, where has this been? And how have I never heard about anything like this before? And yeah, we started our journey at that point and just never looked back.
That's so awesome. And, as you got to meet the team at FPC and starting to hear the different mindset that everybody has here at FPC, because I think you'll agree with me when we say, like, it's a whole different world over here when we're like, when we're trying to communicate, even practitioners who are doing really well, like, it's a whole nother world that you can actually be doing. I think that's hard for practitioners to wrap their head around. So for you, once you joined FPC, how long would you say that it took you to like make that mindset shift of what I'm doing is working to I'm going to listen to my coaches and actually do what they're recommending?
It's a good question. I feel like pretty early on I was trusting the process, but it was really challenging at the time because at that time there was no coaches that were medical doctors on the FPC team. At that time, I became the first one. So I was super excited about that. So I wasn't 100% sure, like, is this really for me? Is this going to work for me? And then as we got rolling and started, I created my FPC model and kept my primary care practice going at the same time. I saw the value and the benefits, and I loved practicing more in the FPC model than I did in my primary care model. And so that was really eye-opening for me too. And I feel like I always say, the FPC journey is not just about changing the model of your practice. That's part of it. And the other half of it is changing your own mindset and like your belief in yourself and your ability to see what's possible. Because, as a family medicine MD, I always saw like the straight, narrow path of like, you get your degree, you get your residency training, and then you go and you work for somebody forever, right? For 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it is. And you keep your head down and you kill yourself and then you retire at some point like that. That's all we ever knew. And even when I was in residency, I was discouraged from opening my own practice because hardly anybody was doing it. And I was like, no, I want to practice differently. And nobody was doing it. And so I always was kind of like the oddball that already was like, no, I know I can do this differently. I'm not exactly sure how, but, I was kind of playing to the beat of my own drum at that time too. So it made sense when FPC came along, like it created this like open space of what I deeply knew was possible, but didn't really see or understand at that time.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I want you to fast forward, but we're going to come back, but fast forward to me now. What does life look like for you on the other side? I mean, I know that you do get to experience conferences because we got to go to A4M not too long ago, but, tell me what is life like now for you?
So my number one thing that I came into FPC for was this time freedom thing. And even during my actual program with FPC, I was able to take a 2-week trip to Italy with my husband, which was amazing. We actually closed the clinic for a whole week, and then the clinic ran without me for a second week. That was amazing. Never possible with the old system that I had set up for myself. So that was cool. But now it's like the flexibility in my life is what I always wanted. Like for me, that was true freedom, was just, being able to like, oh, for example, that A4M conference was going on, I wanted to go. So I made it happen, or FPC quarterlies are going on, I want to go. Okay. I'm making that happen. So it's so nice to have that freedom and flexibility to do that, to travel, to, I don't know, anything that comes up. I move my schedule around. I have super autonomy in my schedule and like, don't feel chained to it, but like make it work around, my timing. And for example, I pretty much never use an alarm anymore. Like I let myself actually sleep and wake up at my normal rhythm, which actually helps my whole day go better because I'm not being like jolted awake too early and, frustrated and dragging myself through my days. And so things like that have made my life dramatically better and happier, and allowed me to do things like coach with FPC and, still run my practices and really do what matters to me.
I love that. That is so awesome. And when you're on vacation, when you're able to take those breaks away from the practice, do you ever fear that the practice is going to fall apart because you're not there, or you maybe might not be able to pay yourself because, or your team because you're not there?
Before FPC, absolutely. Do you remember when I first started, I would be doing my notes when I was traveling down at the quarterlies. I had my laptop closing notes because we didn't get paid until we closed notes and submitted claims. That was insane.
And I would be like, Kori, everybody's going to dinner. Come. And you'd be like,
I have to just finish closing these because we might get paid in, anywhere from 2 days to 2 years from now. So I got to send this out like right now. That's the insanity of the insurance billing model. And so it was insane. Now, no, I can actually like unplug and really relax and focus on where I am and being more present. Like that's a huge thing that was able to happen because of my FPC journey as well. Just, being able to enjoy moments and life more and be in it instead of always like thinking about past or future worries about the business or anything. And I have such an amazing team now that I trust that can run things when I'm not in the office, that it's a whole different life in such a better way. In fact, I always, as I was like thinking about this interview, I was thinking about, I don't see myself retiring at this point. Like I love what I do so much and like want to keep in some capacity being able to do the things that matter to me. Like retirement is not something that I am like excited about because I love being able to do what I'm doing now. Whereas before FPC, oh yeah, you're counting like the days and the years to like, when am I going to be able to like live this golden year life that, everybody talks about.
I love that. That's such a great point. And one thing that you mentioned that I want to cover a little bit deeper is, personally, I've got to see this beautiful transformation that happened within yourself. You've always been this amazing like go-getter and almost, would you say type A, like just you, like everything, like, man, Kori has her stuff together. I'm telling you, like she does not miss anything. But what I've seen transform is while you still have those inherent traits where you're still on top of your game, there's like an inner peace in you that I think I didn't notice as much or wasn't as prevalent. And like, it like shines through you now. Like you still are a go-getter. You still have the zeal for life, but you're doing it in this like space of like calmness and peace. One of the things that FPC does that I don't think we talk about a lot is we do a lot of personal development with our clients, because just like a doctor can only take their patients as far as that practice member or patient is willing to take themselves, it's the same thing with FPC. We can only take you guys as far as you guys are willing to go. And so a lot of personal development has to be done sometimes as well. I know you're shaking your head. Yes. How do you feel like that's transformed you?
I agree. When I started FPC, I was very much the traditional family medicine MD mindset of like, you have to have this like barrier around you. You can't be human and vulnerable in front of anybody. You have to be perfect all the time. And of course, that's a very stressful way to live because you can't be human in front of your patients or out there, right? And yeah. I think the FPC journey has allowed me to embrace being me and being vulnerable and being human in front of patients, potential patients, in front of more people in general, even just, colleagues and friends and just everybody. And I agree with you. I think before FPC, I was in this like very stressed, fear of failure type of mindset. Like I started my own practice and I had it drilled in my brain, especially in residency before I started, that like, this isn't common for doctors to succeed. Doctors are bad at business. Like we all hear that. Right. And I think in the back of my mind, I was always sort of like afraid of that, even though I started developing, I had obviously a knack for it. If I was doing it before FPC, I was able to start the practice and keep it going, but it wasn't, as we talked about, it wasn't really a business. I was owning my job. but the idea of learning how to trust myself and my capabilities, and not having to control every single aspect of things, and actually trying to live more in flow, and sort of like when things are hard, understanding that maybe that's not the right path. Maybe I'm pushing really hard to do something and go over here, but I'm supposed to be going this way, which is actually in flow and easier. And I've really learned to ride the waves of life better that way. And like, I do feel like I'm living more calmly and more in flow because of that. And when things go wrong, because they always do, it's still a wild ride. I ride the waves much better and more confidently than before, where it was like, oh my gosh, is my business going to close? And, like I had a scenario where two of my medical assistants quit at the same time. Like they walked in and they both quit at the same time, and they were like my support staff. And I was like, it was pretty early in my FPC journey. And I mean, I was panicked. I remember calling up, I think it was Kai, actually. I was talking to him on the phone, like one of the coaches, just like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? And like now when the challenges come up with, team changes and stuff, I'm like, okay, what I've learned is, wow, I'm actually really excited, because now I get a new opportunity to bring in a better fit, for what we're doing, and to grow in the right direction, instead of like fighting to have somebody stay that isn't a good fit.
Love that. That's so important to know, going with the flow and really like living your full potential rather than like fighting. So many practitioners are just out there fighting, and it's causing that, burned out and that toxicity that in that environment that they're in. But it's hard to like launch into opening up your own business. I mean, it's hard to leave the security of working for someone, or being in a hospital and that secure paycheck, or even like knowing I'll be secure if I go into a group practice, to have that, that confidence to want to get out and want to treat patients the way that you feel like is best for the patients, and not be beholden to anybody for your schedule or paycheck or anything. That takes real courage. I'm so proud of you that you chose that path. I know that there were a lot of fears. Like you chose that path in spite of the fears, not because there weren't any fears. There's some really common fears that I cover a lot with practitioners. They always will say, fear of, taking the risk, or fear of being an imposter. The imposter syndrome is real big amongst practitioners, which, that just like breaks my heart. But fear of failure is a really, really big one, because, you've committed your life up to this point to go to school. You've invested all of this money. Your family sometimes has invested all this time in you to get to this point. And now it's up to you to be successful. So talk to me a little bit about, that fear of failure. How did it keep you kind of in that state of oppression before, and how have you learned to overcome it now?
Yeah, I think it's super common, especially with the medical doctors. And I think it's because in general, it's decreasing the number of doctors who feel confident and actually jumping out on their own. More and more are working for the big hospital systems, or getting, they start their practice and, they don't really know the best ways to do it. And then they end up getting bought out or closing or whatever. And especially during the pandemic, that was even more evident, I think, and scary for a lot of doctors. And so for me, that fear, and honestly, I had that fear too, because, even in my own family, like some of my family members they were like more conservative, business minded people who didn't know, right? They're not doctors. I'm the first doctor in my family. So they didn't really know like how I was going to be successful, and thought I should do things differently. And I was like, no, I want to start this way. And I want to learn how to do every aspect of, starting my practice, so I can then, bring in people to then take over, as opposed to having a big fleet of people working for me. And then I don't know how anything works. And then I'm stuck. And that's where most doctors are, right? Like they don't know how to do anything in terms of how to run their practice. And so I think that was keeping me where I was. And then it helped me, or it pushed me to get to that place where I just couldn't, it wasn't sustainable, over time. And then with FPC, knowing that there's this model that's been proven out with all types of different practitioners. It's not just about one type of practitioner. It's literally a proven model for so many different ways of being successful in terms of service and support and teaching people something. And then honestly, like coming from a primary care background and seeing the spinning around, that sinking ship that we always use, that visualization of patients like not moving towards the life that they want, like just giving them the pill, the prescription, the refill, the procedure, but like they're not getting better and they're not learning how to take better care of themselves. To me, that was really groundbreaking and like really freedom inducing, in that, you know, when you start to see people actually like learning what we've been trying to tell them. I mean, I spent 90 minutes with my patients in my primary care practice, giving them handouts and telling what to do. And like, they would not, I mean, they would leave a couple months or a year later and nothing changed. It was not time. I thought they needed more time with me. I really thought that was like what we needed to do. And then when I'm doing that, I'm like, this is crazy. And what I learned was, no, if they actually take accountability and, you know, responsibility for their part in this, and they actually learn how to take better care of themselves, like they understand that's what they're doing. We're working with you to do that. And they're not waiting for us as doctors to fix them. Like, their lives open up, and then we're actually much more impactful, like most doctors want to be, in helping people get and remain healthy. And so when I started to see that shift in my my wellness program and the way that people were able to get way better results than in my primary care side for years, like in months, they would get dramatically better results than they were in years on this integrative primary care practice and insurance. And I was like, this is insane. This is awesome. This is why I became a doctor. What I wanted to do. And so I feel like that really like solidified my confidence in, okay, like I'm doing this. There's no going back. I'm burning the boat, or
you're burning your ship, I think is what Charlie says. You're
burning the ship. I'm getting on the other boat and I'm moving. I'm never going backwards. Like, it's not an option. I'm just going to keep moving, and I may not be perfect. I won't, actually. I know I won't be perfect, and embracing the fact that I will, you know, fall.
Yeah.
But like the only way I fail completely is if I stop trying and like, you know, just quit and stop doing anything, like just stay in the same place. So if I keep growing and moving and shifting, then there's no way to fail. You just keep going.
That's right. And I think, you know, in one of our interviews that we had with Denise, which, you know, we both love Denise, she's awesome. She talked about how unexpected the patient outcomes were as well. Right. And so like that was one surprise, was she always thought she was getting really great patient outcomes. She didn't realize how much better they could be when there was patient compliance, right, through a program. But I know that you have a special story that you want to share about a specific patient who you worked with.
It's one of my favorite success stories that we have. This woman, Sheila, she came to me. She was in her 50s and she was literally on disability. She had type 2 diabetes and was on the disability for bad pain and the uncontrolled diabetes and just not being able to work, even though she was in her 50s. And she came to me and ended up doing a program. And at the end of her program was down to a pre-diabetic state. She lost weight. She started sleeping better, having more energy, and just like was able to start, you know, kind of engaging in her life again. And then I had the great honor and privilege of seeing her more recently, because we always talk about how our programs are really teaching people what we call the skills of being healthy. And then they keep going and get better and better over time without me or any special doctors afterwards to fix them, right? Like they're ambassadors of health for themselves now and keep going. But she stayed connected to us. And oh my gosh, it was so exciting, because when we saw her more recently, she had lost half of her body weight in pounds. And her diabetes was completely gone. She had a better A1C, hemoglobin A1C, than many of my never been diabetic patients. And she was off all of her meds. And of course, she was actually like working again and like engaging in her life. And, you know, just this was a whole new chapter for her that was never possible, you know, before I met her.
I love that. Okay. So this is so cool. And this is such a great point. What we do at FPC is we don't fix boo-boos, like Charlie says, right? You know, so when she came to you, she could have easily said, Kori, I have this one thing, which is what usually happens, right? Fix this. But instead she came to you and she was like, I'm on disability. I can't work. I'm in severe pain. I don't have a life. I'm miserable. She gave you all of these pain points. And by working with her in a deeper way, in a systemized program, customized, that you were able to create for her, you not only resolved a lot of the issues that she came in for, but you gave her back her life. She can work again and enjoy her life. That's amazing.
That's what this is all about. And this is one of the things I actually love about FPC is the model's analogous, right? Like it's the same model. And I always think about, I knew it too. From the moment I met FPC, I loved it. I was seeing it and I loved it because FPC teaches us as practitioners how to take care of our practice and our lives the way that we teach our patients to take care of their health and get the lives that they want. And so that analogy to me was just like powerful. And that was one of the reasons that I couldn't resist, giving back and wanting to be a coach with FPC after I finished my program, because it's so exciting to be able to give doctors and practitioners the lives back that they've been, they became practitioners for, because they have, a much better practice and they're able to impact people the way that they really want it to be.
Absolutely. And you've been coaching with us for how many years has it been now?
Over 4 years now.
That's crazy. I don't even, where did the time go? I don't know. There was a blip in there somewhere, I think.
I've been coaching longer than my program. So it's really, really exciting to continue growing with everyone and being able to give back that way.
And what's so amazing with you is that I've seen so much growth as you've even been coaching. So it's not like you were like, okay, I got this. I know everything. I'm going to start coaching. But you were like, I'm going to share what knowledge I've gained and I'm going to continue to grow. And that's what I love about this FPC, tribe that we have of all of these amazing practitioners. It doesn't matter if it's, Jeanette Berry, who is, a clinical nutritionist, registered dietitian. She's amazing at what she does. She's phenomenal at the top of her game, and then we have, amazing chiropractors and naturopathic physicians and medical doctors. And we all come together to change the way that we work with patients in a deeper and better way, no matter what that scope of practice is. And it's so cool to see, like, it's, how they say, like, you're a culmination of the 6 people that you hang around, or, whatever your inner circle is. I mean, how cool is that this is like our inner circle? This is who we get to this is who we get to do life with. That's pretty awesome. I don't know how I got this lucky to hang out with all you guys.
Absolutely. And I just feel like the more I do it, the more excited I get about the future and like where we're going. And yeah, the more I realize I'm nowhere near done. Just like I tell my patients, even at the end of a program, you're nowhere near done. You're just on this path and you're going to keep evolving and growing. And I've even seen it with Charlie. I've seen it with you and the team, the FPC team itself too. It's been such a joy and an honor to be part of the whole process with FPC growing too along the way. And so it just feels like a natural fit. And it makes me feel like, yeah, my decision to work with FPC has been one of the best ones that I've ever made, for sure.
That's awesome. So let's just wrap things up for people who might have to get going. But is there any piece of advice, or is there anything that you want to share with other practitioners that are out there who maybe don't think they need a business coach like you did, because they're doing well?
I'd say when you think you don't need a coach is exactly when you need a coach. Because you think you've mastered everything, and like the more we go on this trip of life, like the more I realize I don't know, I don't have it all figured out. And being open and growth minded is the best way to live and thrive. When you think you've figured it all out, you're done, because you either are growing or you're sort of regressing. That there's no staying in the same place. It's the same with people's health too, right? If they're either getting healthier or they're not. But I would say that if you've never thought about coaching before, open your mind up, because as I said, I was quote unquote, doing well financially, but not living the life that I really wanted to be living, and wanted to have more control and autonomy with the time that I had. And, if I wasn't open to coaching, I would still be grinding it out and maybe have sold my practice to a hospital at this point with the pandemic, and who knows what would have happened. I kind of don't even want to think about it because it's just not an option. Like this other way of keeping my own independent practice, honestly, and I'm in the western suburbs of Chicago, and I've been here for 13 plus years with my practice. And it's like, there's still hardly anybody like me practicing in my area after all this time. So I feel even more committed to, keeping a practice like mine around and being an inspiration and hope for practitioners around that are thinking maybe they want to do something like that, but are not sure. And of course are scared. So there's just a lot of support and confidence knowing that there's a whole tribe of people and practitioners in the FPC world that have proven out what you might be afraid of at this point.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me today, Kori. It was so great talking to you.
Absolutely.
And we will talk with you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.